Welcome to the richness of our lives. I'm Mary Scott, and this is where we celebrate the wisdom, courage, and stories that shape us. Every 2 weeks, I sit down with entrepreneurs, coaches, and remarkable people who've walked through fire and come out transformed. This isn't just about success, it's about the richness of the human experience. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's dive deep. Welcome to the Richness of Our Lives podcast. I'm Mary Scott, and today our guest resides in Costa Rica. She is a recovery and reinvention coach. She's a blogger. She's an author. She's also been a filmmaker. She is one hugely talented woman. Please welcome Gina Rizzolo-Epstein. Gina, hello. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Mary. How are you?
I am awesome, and thank you so much for being with us today. Gina, life hasn't always been roses. These days you have a very fruitful business in Costa Rica, but it hasn't always been like that. There was a time, in fact, where there was decisions to be made about life and death. Is that right? Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I come from a lot of early childhood trauma, and I had moved to New York City when I was 20, and 10 months after I arrived there, I was raped by someone I knew. And for the next 4 years or so, I had a really rough time. And I went home. I lived in New York City. My family lived in New Jersey. And I went home. My grandmother died, and my parents separated all on the same weekend.
Oh, wow.
And I came back to New York, and I just remember sitting on my bed crying and talking to God, something I hadn't done in quite a while. And I knew I needed either I got help, or if I didn't get help, I'd probably die, I mean, so I was I used to look back at that 25-year-old girl and not like her too much, but I'm really proud of her because the next day after that happened, I found that we had a paper in New York called The Village Voice, and their classified ads was quite interesting. But I found a therapist through that classified ads, and started my journey on recovery. So I'm really grateful to that young girl who was brave enough to at least pick up the phone and get some help.
Oh, absolutely. And that was a long time ago, but what it informs me about and our listeners is that you absolutely know what it's like to be on the other end of things, being in recovery,
Mm.
having an eating disorder. And one thing you said to me that has stuck with me is that doesn't matter how much I eat, it doesn't take the pain away. And I was reflecting on that, and there's a lot of pain, isn't there, in addiction? There's a lot of pain that actually keeps people stuck for many years. And you know all about this, which makes you a good point of contact for women in recovery. What would you say about all that, Gina?
Well, I have over 35 years of recovery, but one of the things I had hit that bottom, and then I hit another bottom after working with my therapist about um, got to a point where I wanted to use food and I couldn't because I realized it didn't matter how much I ate or how much, I was a laxative bulimic, how much I acted out in my bulimia. It didn't numb it wasn't going to matter because the pain is still going to be there. It doesn't matter how much you numb it, it's still there. And so that's when I got brave enough to face that pain and embrace the journey of recovery and figure out who I wanted to be and what kind of life I wanted. And so, yeah, but it doesn't matter how much drugs you do, how much, gambling or sex or whatever your addiction is. It doesn't matter how much you do it. The pain is still there. It's not going to go away until you face it and, deal with it and let it go.
That's right. And I like the way that you acknowledge that young woman for having the courage, because it does take courage, you know.
Mhm.
Having done a lot of therapy myself, it takes guts, it takes courage. But the other thing that strikes me about it, it takes a lot of commitment.
Mm.
That, do you think commitment, what's other words you would describe what it takes to continue your life in recovery? Because you have created, well, let's go back a bit. You've manifested a
Mhm.
marvelous and fulfilling life for yourself. What do you think it takes? I mean, you know all about this.
Well, I look back at myself at 25 and it was like how naive I was to think of if I knew how all the things I had to go through to get where I probably wouldn't have done it. But it does take commitment. It takes a commitment to yourself. You know, I think for me, I was just committed to getting better. I just wanted to be better. I didn't want to be this mess. At least I saw myself as this mess and not being able to handle life. And I think one of the gifts of the program, they say about handling life on life terms, and I never did that before. So I believe the commitment is ongoing. It's not like you walk in a 12-step room, you do the steps, and then you leave, and your life is wonderful. It's not like that. It's an ongoing commitment to yourself and to moving forward. The more forward you move, the more things that you do, the farther that life is behind you.
Yes, I like that. And that's the value, isn't it? Having someone like yourself, recovery and reinvention. And I like what you're saying, recovery and reinvention, because
Mm.
I actually think we're all recovering from something, Gina. We're just not aware.
Yeah,
We're
true.
certainly not stating it. And we're always, and that's a strong word always, but we want to or we need to pivot and reinvent ourselves.
Mhm.
How do you find that? Do you think reinvention is easy if you do it in isolation? Do you think that it's good to have a coach like yourself? What's the difference if you do it in isolation and you have the support? What do you think the difference is in the results or the outcome?
Well, for me, I don't think I would have done it if I was in isolation. You know, I had therapy, but I also had a community of people I did a lot of personal development with. I did 12-step program. I had people in there. You can't do it alone, you know, and that's the thing about recovery or, you know, addicts, we like to hide and not everybody see us. And it's about not, it's about being seen and about doing what you love or what you want to do with your life. Um, Also, I think for me, um, the more I did things, the more sense of trust, self-trust, sense of self, the more I have sense of self, the more I know who I am and like who I am, you know, doing new things and getting out of my comfort zone. It's like it's not always easier, but it's better because it's okay to get out of my comfort zone. I know who I am. I trust what I'm doing. And when you don't trust yourself or you're not sure, you know, it's you know when you have this life where you're an addict and you're hiding and you're fearful all the time, when you trust yourself, then it's okay to move forward. It's okay to take risks. It's okay to be uncomfortable. You know, it's okay. And if you make a mistake, fine. You're going to fail, right? Life is about failing. It's about, well, my dad used to say, you're going to make tons of mistakes, but the mistake is if you don't learn from them, right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the truth. You make a mistake, you learn, you build your reservoir of all the knowledge that you know, and you just keep going forward.
Yes, that's so true. And I also like what you're saying. And I talk about this a lot in my practice that, you know, you can do a course and you do another one and another one and another one. But if you never integrate it or implement it into your life, it's lost. What's the saying? Falls on deaf ears.
Right,
And
right.
I mean, that old saying, it's a bit glitchy, you know, the journey, not the destination. But in, and I think the sooner people get that it is actually about the journey, continually committing to yourself. And I like what you're saying about that because it's the journey where the adventure is, where the mistakes and lessons are learned. And that's actually the richness, isn't it, of our
Right,
lives, in that
right.
it's not here where we go, oh, we can relax because this is the fun part. Well, I like to think of it fun, adventure. How often do you think that being uncomfortable becomes okay? Do you think it's something we get too quickly, or is it we just got to hang in a bit longer and get a bit more support?
Well, I think, as a coach, that's what I work on because um, life happens when you're uncomfortable. The things that, you know what I mean? It's finding the career that you want or the relationship you want, or, like I did move to another country. All those things are very uncomfortable. Um, and like you said about courses and things like that. Um, I think you need support. My support, since I've been through a lot of it, I want to encourage, what I do is I like to encourage people to go out of their comfort zone, but to learn to trust themselves, to learn and find the things that work for them. I have a plethora of tools that I can share, but if it doesn't resonate with you, then I don't want you to use it. I want you to find something within yourself, because the more you find things within yourself, the more you're going to trust yourself, the more confidence you're going to have, and then making it uncomfortable, being in an uncomfortable situation where you're moving forward outside of your comfort zone is not going to be that. You're going to be like, okay, I'm comfortable. I'm okay. It's okay. I'm uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. But I trust what I'm doing. This is going to work. Blah, blah, blah. Those are the things that you say.
Yes, that's right. And I don't know. Sometimes I think about this, Gina, that when I'm feeling really uncomfortable these days, because I've been around the planet for a bit,
Right.
I get excited because I think anytime now I'm going to have a breakthrough. And that must be one of the beautiful moments for you as a coach in this area, seeing people break through to a new life. And I don't want to make that sound dramatic, but I know transformation happens here, doesn't it? And when you get into that uncomfortableness, you know that you're close to something major. How is that for you? Because you're there facilitating all this.
Well, that's the most exciting part for me, because that's what I'm here for. I want you to have a breakthrough. I want you to do things that you have thought you. Well, especially when you're addict, we have this "I don't deserve" kind of thing, and then
Yeah.
when you step in your life and like, yeah, I deserve this relationship, or yes, I deserve this career, or yes, I deserve to live somewhere, or I deserve to do something that makes me happy. When you get to someone like that, for me, that's my modus operandi, right? That's what keeps me going. That's what, like, oh, that's why I do it.
Yeah, I think that they're the beautiful moments. They're the sweet points in our work. I know that for myself. When I witness something, it's a special kind of sweetness about it. That's I don't know. For me, I call it a bit of a gooey moment. I don't even know if that's
Yeah,
the word, but it is. It's a kind of a warmth, and if only people knew. What's that? We don't know what we don't know. And
right, right. I love that.
and I love what you said before. If I knew, I knew what I'd have to do, I probably wouldn't have.
Right.
And I think that's why the baby steps are important.
Yeah.
We do what we can do now, then we do, and incrementally we move forward. But the other thing I liked what you're saying was that you do what is best for you. You have a plethora of tools in your toolbox that you can give out, but it's ultimately a very individual path and everyone's unique. Is
Yeah.
how does that all sound about how you work and your clients?
Yeah, that's a big part of how I work. Excuse me, I work. One of the things also when you talk about breakthroughs, it doesn't have to be a big usually the little things that you don't realize are the big breakthroughs that move you forward to the bigger things. That's always happened to me, and I've seen it in my clients and other people over the years. It's like the aha moment that switches your life, and that's the real juice, as you say.
Yeah. Do you think that's underrated?
Yeah, because I think we live in a society where we want instant gratification. We want the job or we want the man. Blah, blah, blah. But one of the things is when I was 36, I decided I wanted a life partner. And it was a journey. It took me 5 years till I met my life partner, but it was a good journey. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the man I wanted to be with. I learned how to be with men. I learned, what I wanted my relationship to look like. And all those were little steps, right? They were all little steps. And then when I met my husband, it was just, oh, okay. You know,
It's a point. I think what you're saying, it was a point when, like, because it was a 5-year journey,
right.
and there was a point when, this is the right moment, the right man, obviously, but I think in that moment there's a bit of magic. Something lines up, and that's why I think it's important to know yourself, isn't it? Because you might miss
Yeah,
those
very much so.
moments. Might,
Hmm.
the train might leave the station before you realize, oh, that's my train. I know that's probably, I mean, meeting your life partner, your now husband, I'm sure it was way more special than any train. But
Right.
nonetheless, you talked before about, instant gratification. Is that one of the challenges that we're facing at the moment in the world, that you waited 5 years, you knew the man you wanted, you worked out. Oh, I loved what you said. I learned how to be with a man. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
Do you think that we're hooked onto this instant gratification?
Well, with the social media the way it is, I think somewhat, yeah. There's a lot of that. Sign up here, do this, and you'll get that, and da da da, and um, our lives are journeys. Your recovery is just a journey. It's not a destination. If you just keep moving and doing what works for you, or just keep growing, I think that's a recovery. It's a journey. I have no destination. At this point in my life, I'm still creating it myself and doing different things. You don't stop. Why would you want to?
Well, exactly. Why would you want to? And you've had some exceptional times in your life,
Mhm.
some big wins and some serious moments of choices that we spoke about before. But what makes your heart sing, Gina?
What makes my heart sing? Um, well, a few things. What makes my heart sing is helping empower women to find themselves and to move forward in the recovery. That makes my heart sing very much. Serving, and that to me, that's serving my higher power, that's serving women. Um, but the thing that makes my heart sing and what's my guiding light is my daughter Maya. She makes my heart sing.
Oh, that's beautiful. And how does she make your heart sing?
She just makes me a better person. I think that I had her so late in life and I didn't expect it to happen. You know, um, she just, who she is beautiful, but she really, I think I wouldn't be coaching if it wasn't for her. I wouldn't have written a blog if it wasn't for her. I wouldn't be writing my book if it wasn't for her. So I think she makes me a better person.
Wow. I wonder how many mums would say that, because I think that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? It's about the exchange is very reciprocal. It doesn't matter how old your kids are.
Right.
When you're reciprocating and having meaningful conversation, there's got to be something in it for both of us, not only your child, but for you. And so often I see mums where they've just kind of abandoned themselves, and then it becomes all about the children or the grandchildren.
Right.
How important do you think it is approaching life from this perspective that you have?
I think it's been useful. I was raised by a really powerful woman who was a mother, a wife, and a grandmother who used to say to me, Gina, you have to be more than just a wife and a mother. You have to be something for yourself. And that carried me forward into, I was like fashion for 20 years, became a documentary filmmaker. Uh, so when I had my daughter, that part of me had been fulfilled. Um, but having my daughter also expanded me as a person. I think every mother would say they're expanded as a person because you're caring. It's when you first give birth, this little baby, you got to take care of this little baby. It's a very vulnerable feeling, and then you're this driving force in this person's life. So it becomes, you know, something more and more and more. And I'm her role model. So I want to be a good role model. And what am I, what do I want her to have a life and be able to reinvent herself or do the things that she loves to do, which she does.
Yeah, she's her own person, is what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Isn't it interesting when we talk about our mothers in the way that you are? Such a wise, wise soul. And, you know, I'm going to say back then it's not quite the right terminology. A woman considering herself, like what your mother actually said was deeply profound, wasn't it?
Right.
Because what was the saying? Don't go getting selfish, and she's saying, you need to look after yourself and do what's right for you. And gosh, she must have been not only wise but thoughtful and discerning. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
And here you are passing it on again to your daughter. How important is this, that the generational role modeling, I suppose, let's call it?
I don't know. I'm just glad that she was my role model. And she really taught me a lot about empathy and accepting people. Um, so I think it's important to be a role model. I mean, I take that seriously. I don't, your children pick up on what you say and what you do. It's not, and how you're being in the world. They don't, you may tell them do, but they really just pick up on who you're being and how you are in the world, right?
Yeah. The reason I mentioned that, I was thinking about that as coaches, we're in a very unique,
Oh, right,
let's add privileged position,
right,
because in some ways we're remodeling. We are modeling for our own clients, and
right.
and I think that's powerful, because I imagine, or certainly what I see out there, is that there's a lot of people just haven't had that. They haven't had a role model. They haven't seen the value of being true to themselves. And I imagine that's what you bring to and for your clients. Can you say anything more about that?
Yeah, I think my over 35 years of experience, I didn't just do the 12-step program. I spent 30 some years doing personal development and working on myself and working through things. Um, so that's my gift, what I have for everybody. But even as a coach, I still do things so I can bring more things to my clients all the time. You know, I think that's important as well.
Well,
And to
that's
have,
right.
and if you
No,
have
no, go.
integrity in your life, then you bring integrity to their lives. Whatever you do is going to bring something to them. And I think that's really important.
Well, what you're talking about here is relationship, aren't you? And communication between us as coaches and the client, and how important that is. And
Yes.
a lot of people that I see haven't had deeply meaningful conversations, let alone relationships, certainly not that have lasted long. What's
Right.
your experience of this?
Well, I think the people, I mean, I'm really, I'm good at creating relationships in a space. But I think the thing is, if you come as what we talked about, if you're not committed and you have to listen to the coaching that you're getting, you have to be willing to be coached. and that is a that's a responsibility of you the coachee to be willing to be coached and to be committed. I'm already committed. I'm in. If this is what you want, I'm committed. But you have to do the work. You're the one who's going to be doing the work. I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to support you like crazy and give you my vast knowledge and love and whatever, I'm going to provide whatever I can. But if you don't do the work, it's just not going to happen. You know, I did tons of personal development. I've done lots of courses, and there's always those people who do the courses over and over and over again, and their life still looks the same.
That's right.
And I remember I did a teams management leadership program for 2 years, and I came out of that program having caused a lot for a lot of other people. And I said, it's time to cause for myself. And
Yeah.
that's what I did. And now I'm here saying, I'm here to cause for you.
That's lovely,
Mhm.
isn't it? And it what you're talking about is it's a step-by-step process, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think I'm just reflecting on time, what we saw then, what we see now, what we brought then, and what we bring now, very different things. And I think that's the big value that you have, certainly for people, women in particular in recovery, is that you know the little steps and you help people to make it their steps. They're certainly not yours and they're never going to be, are
Yeah.
they? Like,
Right.
and so what you're doing, I think, is you're taking people on a pathway, aren't you?
Definitely a pathway to themselves, a pathway to trusting themselves, the pathway to, set boundaries for themselves within themselves and with other people. Um, to look at what triggers them, build resilience so they don't go back and they just keep moving forward, and to create a goal. Every 12 weeks, I create a goal with my clients. And once they achieve that goal, we move on to the next, whatever they want to do. I think everybody's different, and I can't approach everybody the same exact way because everybody's in a different place. But I do know that there's a point where you're ready to move and you're just scared because you were an addict and you messed up a lot, and you don't want to mess up anymore. And the world's a little scary, but it's exciting at the same time. And how do I deal with all of this? And that's what I provide. I provide a safe space to learn how to trust yourself and to learn how to create a goal, that meaningful goal for yourself to move forward, and to look at your resilience, to keep building upon the resilience you already have created. And that's what I do, and that's what I like to do. I see.
Yeah, that's lovely. You said something that kind of pricked my ears up about excitement and fear, and they sometimes feel the same.
Yeah,
And
they
I
do.
remember years ago doing a course, and we had to do joy, excitement. I think we called it, I called it scaredy cat, the fear. And all of those, when we had to do them, they all got confused. And the biggest one was fear, because how do you act out, fear? And right in the middle of it, I started laughing. And I was like, oh, that's really weird. It's the same kind of energy as excitement. And
Right.
it's a bit of an adrenaline rush, isn't it? It's like, boom,
Yeah.
and that was many years ago, and here am I talking about it. But the reason I bring that up is I think it's so easy to misunderstand our feelings, and that's why having a
Mhm.
coach or a mentor is so valuable, because it helps us distinguish between what this is and what this is, and know for ourselves.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Also because it's exciting that you're doing something new, but it's also scary because you're going to create a different you. You know what I mean? It's like your identity has been, oh, I'm a waste, I'm a loser, I'm an addict, blah blah blah. You have all this negative stuff, but now you're not that person anymore. And who am I going to be? I mean, that's exciting, but it's also like, who am I going to be? You know what I mean?
Well,
All at
yeah,
the
that's
same
right.
time, all at the same time, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. In fact, it could be quite shocking if you think about it. It's like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Right.
because the possibilities are endless, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Jeannie, you've written a lot about self-love.
Hmm.
I'd love to hear your understanding about it and why it's important.
Well, one of the things when I did, oh God, I was about 30, I did this thing called Justin's Woman's Weekend. And it was a powerful weekend. Firstly, because it was powerful for me because a friend of mine said, you need to do this. Is so amazing weekend, blah, blah, blah. And she said, look, I know you don't have the money. We'll do a payment plan. You can pay me back. And she said, trust me. And I remember I got off the phone with her and I'm like, well, it's really not about trusting her. It's about trusting me that I could do this weekend. And then I did the weekend, and it was about being in a relationship with other women, being in a relationship with yourself, about letting go of your father, embracing your mother, all this kind of stuff. And then about being in a relationship with yourself. And I was starting to date again then, and do all of that. And I realized wasn't in a relationship with myself. Like I needed to understand me a little bit more based in picking different people to go out with, right? So that's when I started having a relationship with myself and working on enjoying my own company, working on myself, my self-esteem. Once you go through 12 steps and I faced years of trauma. I faced the anger, the guilt, the shame, the grief, all of that.
Yeah.
I felt pretty good and proud of myself. So, I acknowledged that in my life. I just started, taking myself on dates, writing love letters and things like that to myself to build up who I am. And the more things you do, like that you take on in your life, the more things more confidence you build and more self-love that you build, and when you love yourself, you make esteemable choices. So the more you love yourself, the more esteemable choices you're going to make, right? You're not going to do the kind of things you did as an addict, or if you have mental health issues, you're not going to do things that are negative or really bad for you. You're going to choose things that are positive. You may take a risk here and there, it may not work, but pat yourself on the back for doing that and pick up and keep going.
That's right, because, you know, I'm reflecting as you're speaking. Certainly my age group, uh, love yourself. Like, what? Over the years, growing up, well, love wasn't mentioned. I certainly didn't hear my parents say, love you, darling, or anything like that. It was very different times. And I know I'm going back to that, but I think it's important because how fundamental it is that we love ourselves, and yet it seems to be elusive to a lot of people. Is that your experience, or is that me just saying that?
Well, I think it is and it isn't. I think the thing about being in recovery, or if you've done the steps or you've done some kind of program, the healing is a spiritual healing. For me, when I took the steps, I felt God's love for me, whatever my higher power is, I call God, love for me. And if that power can love me that way, then why can't I love myself that way?
Oh, I
You
love
know,
that.
yeah,
That's
you know,
lovely. So then let's take that just a little bit further. If I
mm.
love myself, do you think it's easier then to have someone love me as well? Like a life partner, or do you think it gets a bit overwhelming?
No, I don't think it's overwhelming. I think it's beautiful. If you love yourself, the partner you're going to choose is going to love everything about you. They're going to love what's good about you. They're going to love what's bad about you. They're going to take you as a whole package, and they're going to be loving, supportive, partner.
That's beautiful. You've, in fact, written an ebook, haven't you, about that? Several steps,
Yeah.
10 steps, I think it is, to
Yes.
self-love. Why do
Yes.
you why do you think people don't love themselves?
Oh God, many reasons, especially if you've had trauma or you've been diagnosed with a mental illness, that stigma around that. I think, for me, I didn't love myself because of the traumas that I had. I thought I was a bad person for those things to happen to me, which wasn't true. And then I did other things to make it worse, right? So it wasn't something that I think we go into knowing that we don't love ourselves. But I don't think, um, especially women, we don't give ourselves the grace that we deserve to love ourselves and be kind to ourselves. We can show kindness to others, but we need to be kind to ourselves and talk to ourselves differently and, you know, uh, affirm who we are and what we are to ourselves and to the people around us.
Yes, I totally agree. Such a good word, grace, isn't it? It's a kind of a moment in time that if we just give ourselves a bit more grace, it's kind of a
Mhm.
holding moment, isn't it?
Right.
It's a beautiful word. So you're offering such a comprehensive toolkit here. You're bringing so much to the table. What do you think's an ideal time to work with people if they've been through the 12 steps and they're looking now, they've taken on their responsibility of, yep, I'm rebuilding or remaking or starting to understand who I really am. Do you think that I mean, you were saying before you're still growing, and I am too. So it
Mhm.
is an ongoing thing, but
Right.
is there an ideal time, say if someone came to you, what would be a good first commitment? Would it be 12 weeks? Would it be, 6 months?
I usually start at 12 weeks. Um, I promise, to do one meaningful goal every 12 weeks to work on self-trust, self-love, also to, you know, uh, work on resilience, keep that going. You already built resilience because you're in a program, or you don't have to be in a 12-step program, but in some kind of recovery program that's working for you. I like to work with somebody who's at least been a year and committed to the recovery. Usually that's what I like to do. Um, but I work with resilience, self-trust, and belief. I call it belief upgrade.
Oh, tell me about that.
Dismantling, well, dismantling and old beliefs about yourself and the conversations that you have in your head about things that you had from your past that, kind of creep in. I remember my mom and my aunt used to say this to me, but I remember when I was looking for my life partner, I said, I can't have this conversation anymore. It doesn't really work for me. But my mom and my aunt used to say, you're never going to marry anyone if you're fat, right? And I finally got to the point where I was like, well, I want a life partner. This really doesn't work for me because it's not really true. And I'm more than just my weight. I am a good person. I'm fun. I'm funny. I'm smart. I like to do a lot of different things. I have a lot of interests. So you have to change those conversations. And sometimes it's not easy to do, it's really not. But you have to. And I work on that a lot and different belief systems about yourself, uh, belief if you're having financial stuff, start taking on belief that you're in abundance, it's your divine right, or whatever, um, dismantling whatever belief that you may have about yourself. Like I'm
Yes,
unlovable. That's not true. You are lovable. You have to learn to love yourself.
yes, that's right. That's a great term, upgrade
Yeah.
self, your belief, upgrade your self-belief. There's quite a line, isn't it? Lots
Yeah.
to be written about that. We're getting close to finishing. Is there anything you'd like to say specifically to listeners about standing up for themselves or being true to themselves or anything at all, really? Don't let me put words in your mouth.
Okay. Embrace who you are, good and bad. You're uniquely made for a certain purpose, for a certain reason. Don't question it. Just embrace yourself, love yourself. If you're somebody who's in recovery and you're been waiting to move forward, but now you're ready, I'm here. Come check me out. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, and getting my website going shortly. But yeah, I'm here, and
Well,
I'd love to work with you.
that's just beautiful, Gina. And we'll just to let the listeners know, we'll put all of Gina's details plus the ebook if that's
Mhm.
of interest to you. Self-love is, it's a foundation. Everything
Mhm.
can grow from that. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for your time today. Um, I've learnt lots more about recovery and reinvention, and I was right. You're a hugely talented woman. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you, Mary, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on the richness of our lives. If today's conversation stirred something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Connect with me on social media, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you are ready to step into your own bold journey, join our vibrant Cheer Squad. We meet weekly for coaching and connection. Until next time, continue to embrace the richness of your life. I'm Mary Scott, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.